Welcome to Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. How do I structure my finances for both short-term needs and long-term wealth? What's the ideal number of accounts to avoid unnecessary complexity while staying organized? Welcome to episode 14 of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, and today we're talking bank accounts. No more stressing over managing multiple accounts, y'all. It is time for a simple and intentional system. I will share with you the right amount of accounts to have, why high-yield savings accounts are amazing, when joint accounts are a good idea, and how to confidently manage your money. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to set up your accounts for ease, clarity, and wealth building. Before we get into today's episode, if you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. So head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I love the bank account question, y'all. This is where I'm just going to say, let us take a moment as high achievers to just take a nice deep breath, okay? We're just going to breathe in and release, because my lovely, dear high achievers, this is where we overthink. And I know, it's so easy for us to overthink things, overcomplicate some things, and the bank account question is where we definitely do that the best when it comes to money. And so today is going to really be all about simplifying this for you. I know that there seems to be some, assumption that money has to be complicated. And I hope that I have so far served as an example that it does not have to be complicated. It actually gets to be really simple and really easy. And so the first thing I want to just tackle right off the bat is the number of accounts to have. Okay. So more accounts does not equal better money management automatically. Okay. It's not really about how many accounts you have. It's really about how you are using the accounts that you do have and what makes the most sense for you. So many times we hear like, oh, somebody says I should have 5 accounts. Somebody else says I should have 3, so on and so forth, right? We hear all these examples. And as I've said in other parts of your financial journey, we want to do what is going to feel best for you at this time, and also be open to the idea that that can change for you depending on what life event you are going through, depending on just what your life looks like at a different time. This is going to really depend on you here. However, there are some key accounts that you do actually need. Okay, so the first one, I like to call it the bills account. And this can also be like an income account too. So this is where all of your direct deposits for whatever it is, whatever you're, using to make income is going into one account. And that also tends to be the account that you can pay your bills out of. So specifically, all of your non-negotiable expenses, you're also known as your fixed expenses. This is where we want those to be deducted. Okay. This is your bills account. Usually a checking account is best for this. So that's what you want to have set up here. And then this is, like I said, your check can get deposited here. Your, any sort of income that you're receiving can get deposited to this space. And then when it's time for, the bills that are due on whatever day of the month, you want those to be deducted from this account. Now, this is where sometimes we can make things complicated, not in the number of accounts, but just in how we are utilizing the account that we have. So I like what's called a fun money account. And I believe I've talked about it in previous episodes. Honestly, you spend enough time with me, I'm going to talk about a fun money account. And so that is the account where your guilt-free spending hangs out. Okay. So this is the one, like, you get to have fun, literally. So that's where you're having like your entertainment expenses. This is where, if you're going to dinner with girlfriends, like you're spending it from this account. So where we can sometimes make things complicated without the number of accounts is with our fun money. Okay. So with more of that, our disposable extra income here, we can have it all in the same account as our bills. And what that leads to is a lot of mental math that you really don't need to be doing. That looks like we've probably all been there, right? So this, I'm just laughing thinking about it because I know I have definitely been here. But that's those times where, the bill is coming to the table or it's just arrived, right? Everybody's passing it around. And now you're trying to calculate how much, like which card to use. Maybe that's one of the things that you're thinking about, or like, oh, how much can I put on this card? Or maybe it's even before you go to the restaurant, you're thinking like, okay, how much money can I spend today? And you're doing a bunch of mental math because you have, like your rent payment is coming out, and then you have, a car note payment that's coming out in a few days, and then, your Netflix subscription, like all sorts of things, right? And this is where we just add so much extra work that we don't need to do. The beauty of having a fun money account is that the money that you deposit over there, and this is also one that I like to have a checking account attached to, you get to spend freely. So whatever the balance is in that account, that's what you get to spend. That's what is available to you. No more doing calculations before you do something fun, before you are, going out to eat. No more of that. It's just one place. Okay. So that is the beauty of a fun money account, because it does get to align with your lifestyle. And then you have your limit there, right? So for those who do struggle with a little bit of overspending, even, this is where you have this amount in this account. You can see what the balance is. Once that is at a certain level, or it's close to zero, whatever, right? That's it. Like, that's the limit. You are no longer able to spend money in that account. And so I like to set this up as a rollover type of account. So that means that, you say you have a regular deposit of $300 that goes into that account. If I only spend $150 this month, then that means the other 150 continues to roll over, so on and so forth, right? And so that's one of those types of accounts. So that is a great thing to have, to really separate those two things and not get yourself caught up in a situation where you spent too much having fun, and now you got to figure out how to cover the rest of your bills, or you're having to make a savings transfer. Now, speaking of savings, a high yield savings account is a wonderful thing. And before I get into that, I'm just going to say that this is a great place where you can save your money, especially for something that is more on the short term side, sometimes long term, like when we're thinking about your emergency fund, but mostly on the short term side. Okay. And so what I really want you to understand here is that you don't need a dozen accounts. You just need a system that works for you. Okay. And so now the next part that I want to get into, of course, is to dive deeper on why I love high yield savings accounts and why you probably will love them too. And the high yield savings account gives you more interest than a traditional savings account. So you might have seen people talk about high yield savings accounts before, and you're like, what is it? It's a savings account. And there are some that, there are a couple of high yield checking accounts out there, but most of the time we're talking about savings account. Your traditional savings account that is connected to your bank, usually one of the bigger banks, is going to give you very, very, very little interest. I had to whisper that because it's really a low amount. It's like, I'm talking like 1 cent at a time that you might be getting in interest. I'm talking about like 30 cents. I'm talking about maybe a dollar or two, right? Whereas with a high yield savings account, it's based off an annual percentage yield. And so that is the interest rate. And for those, you'll see it looks something like, depending on the time that you open it, could be anywhere from like 4%, 5%, higher or lower than those things, right? Which is all better than what your traditional savings account provides you in terms of interest for your money sitting in that account. And the other thing with an APY, so that annual percentage yield, is that it is compounding. So that means that you're not only gaining interest on the money that you have deposited that's sitting in that account, you're also gaining interest on the interest that you are making in the account. Okay, so say that your amount that you had in there was $50 and you received $1.25 in interest. So instead of making or receiving interest on the $50 only, when it compounds, that means that you are also receiving interest on the entire 51.25. So the interest that you received previously plus the balance that was in the account. That is how it compounds. So it's not just based off the initial amount that you deposited, it's also based off of the interest you are receiving as the money continues to sit in the account, and that's continuing to compound. And so your money is making money faster. Okay, that's the great thing about the high yield savings account. This is also one of those things, I didn't get to talk about this in the first part, so I'll say it here. With these accounts, it's helpful to have them at a couple different banks. I am a big fan of that, especially when it comes to your high yield savings account. You want to make it hard to access, okay? Especially if you know yourself, okay? You know that if you are the person who is quick to make a transfer from your savings to your checking to pay for an impulse purchase, okay? You know you, okay? So, especially for you, let's go ahead and make sure that your savings account is in a separate bank than your checking account. You can do that with your fund money one as well. So if that's helpful for you, you can also do that. It's something that I have, for example. So my checking is in one place, the bills account is in one place, fund money is in a different bank, and then the high yield savings account is in a different bank as well. I use Ally for mine. This is not sponsored by them. If they want to, holla at your girl. I've used Ally for, it's approaching 10 years very quickly. So they have been my high yield savings account for a long time. They're fantastic. So that is, how you can start to set that up. And it really is going to help to accelerate your savings without the extra effort. And that is the best part about the high yield savings account. Okay. So the great things to use that for are your emergency fund savings, anything that's like a short term savings goal. So if you're saving for a particular vacation, a down payment, sometimes I'm working with clients on those more like irregular expenses. So things, like car maintenance is a big one that comes to mind, right? So the oil changes are not every month, but that's something that you may need to do. So that is one of those things where it's great to save for that in a high yield savings account, because then that money is just continuing to receive interest and grow up until you have to actually use it. So those are a couple of examples. Your holiday shopping fund is a great place to have in a high yield savings account as well. Okay. So those examples. And it's story time. I have to share with y'all, when I first started, like, really using the high yield savings account. So I was one of those people, I opened up the account and it was kind of just like, I put a little bit of money in there, but it was just sitting there for a little while. And so in 2018, I'd like to talk about how, or was that 2018 or was it 2017? One of those years. Okay. I set the goal to travel every quarter for the entire year. And that was something this was definitely 2018. So that was something that I was very excited about because travel is something that has always meant a lot to me, that I thoroughly enjoy. It's just, I love it. It always teaches me such great lessons, and the wisdom that I gain from my travels is, it's indescribable. So 2018, I set that goal, and I did not know how I was going to really reach it, right? I had no idea. I just set the intention. And I knew that I would start using the high yield savings account for the travel. So what I did is I, of course, set like a specific percentage. I think at that time, it was like 30% of everything that I was making, I was pouring into that travel savings account that I had set up at Ally. And I was making all those transfers and I saw the money really start to grow. And I was like, wait a minute, like what's happening? That's the same year that I was able to, I think I traveled like 7 or 8 times. It wasn't like the once every quarter like I had initially set it to be. It ended up being so much more than that, so much more exciting than that. I've been able to travel regularly since then, and I still use my travel savings account. Okay. So it's something that can really help you, especially with those short term goals. Now, let me get into joint accounts. So this is often, especially for my couples, like this is a question that comes up. Do I need a joint account? Like, is this something that we need to have? And again, this is going to be one of those things where generally I'm going to say that it depends on you and your situation. And as somebody who did survive financial abuse, I'm also going to say I'm not about to tell you to just put all your money together and like hope for the best. I'm definitely going to say like, let's do a mix of both. Okay. So you can have a joint account and you can also make sure that you still have your own individual checking account. And just to have, just have the extra layer of financial security. And so your joint account is going to make sense when, you are working on shared goals and also for things like bills, right? So that's the biggest one where I feel like it's most beneficial especially if you're living together. If you are, if you're living together, that's going to be a big one because there are just, there's a certain amount of household expenses. It's just helpful to be able to have those all come out of one place where you were both contributing. The other time that it could make sense is, if there's some sort of partnership. So on the business side, that's where things can make sense as well when it comes to a joint account. Now, if you are putting, or if you're only having a joint account and you put all of your money into there and you don't have anything individually, that can be risky. And I'm going to keep that 100 with you. Okay. Because sometimes we go into these partnerships, these relationships, truly believing the best in others. And that's how I operate in general. I really believe in the best in other people. And I also am a firm believer in having your own back just because I've seen the other side of that, right? Whether it's in this work, whether it's in my own personal experience, I've seen the other side of that. And so just have at least a little bit of something that's put to the side for yourself, just in case somebody is, going rogue on the spending and there's not conversations to be had. My biggest thing with joint accounts is that we want to be able to have those money conversations, not just when things are going wrong or there's like a big decision to be made, but regularly. We want to have these conversations about money, where we intend our money to go. Hey, the price of, this subscription changed. Like, let's talk about it. Those are the types of things that we want to have as the foundation of enjoying a joint account together. And so if you are like a couple that does not want to, does wants to have their financial independence, we'll put it that way, and does not necessarily want to commingle funds, I would say that the best things you can do in terms of like the system part is really just to at minimum have that joint bills account. And then from there, if you have individual savings accounts, you guys want to maintain that independence, then that's it's a great thing to do. I have worked with couples on both scenarios. And so it's really just about finding what is going to feel the best and be the best for that couple in their situation. Avoiding financial overwhelm, also known as how to confidently manage your money. So to kind of tie all of this together here, your clarity around where you are putting your money and the accounts that you have will give you more confidence when it comes to your finances. When you know where everything is going, when you know where things are, it's a lot easier to manage and be able to make decisions, and it's also going to take away a lot of the overcomplication, a lot of the extra time that might be needed to manage different accounts. Okay, you know that, okay, if I'm paying my bills, this money is in this account. Okay, if, I'm doing something fun, I'm paying for a vacation, I know where to look for this money. And that makes it a lot easier for you to manage and really start to create a system that works for you with your accounts. You can also simplify a lot of this by doing some automatic transfers. So when it comes to your savings account, instead of always thinking about, oh, I need to transfer this money over whenever I get paid, if you are paid on a regular schedule, go ahead and set up the transfer to automatically happen to your high yield savings account on a regular basis and on that regular schedule. So that way you don't have to go in there and do it yourself, right? That's just something that makes it so much easier. And then also like simplifying your accounts in general is going to make things like building wealth a bit easier. You know how much you can invest in something. You'll know exactly where to look for that. You will be able to budget a lot easier if that's something that you are doing and looking to start, is that you'll be able to say, okay, this is how much I'm spending here and this is how much I'm spending there, right? It's good to be able to access your numbers quickly. And then the other thing is that, we always want to keep in mind how past experiences, can be shaping your habits. And so maybe you witnessed somebody who like had complete financial disorganization. And so you felt like you had to be even extra organized than what they were before. And so you have all of these accounts, but you're doing it from that place and you started from that place of that fear, right? Of what could happen. And then maybe there's the other side where you dealt with so much like almost over organization. And so you are like, I don't want to deal with any of it. This feels too restrictive, right? There's a way to still have the system and have it work for you without putting yourself into a stressful, fear-based decision-making experience when it comes to your money. And so if you are on that opposite side of that, what are ways that we can start to figure out little pieces of organization that are going to help us to feel secure without completely avoiding looking at money and looking at the accounts altogether? On the other side of it, again, what are some things that we can do to feel secure without feeling like we need to micromanage our money? All right. That's a great question to ponder on and take a deep dive into. The most important thing when it comes to your money management and your bank accounts is to keep it simple. Okay, so keep it simple and do what is going to feel best for you in managing it. Your action step for this episode is to do a bank account audit. Okay, so I want you to reflect on how your current system is working for you. Does it feel overwhelming or does it feel just right? You want to make those adjustments one at a time. You do not have to make them all at once, right? So maybe it's opening the high yield savings account. Maybe it's transferring a little bit more money in there than you were before. Or maybe it's even separating, that into buckets to reach your different, savings goals. So it's separating out some of your savings where it's not just all going into one space, right? There are different things that you can do. Maybe it's separating the bills and the fund money so that way you can have more peace of mind when it comes to that area. The biggest thing is that you want to make those adjustments that set you up for ease and success. So the next couple episodes that we have coming up are when to hire a financial coach versus hiring a CPA. And one of my clients is going to be coming on to share her story. I'm very excited for that. And of course, if you are feeling like you need some support around putting together this system for you with your accounts and figuring out something that's going to work best for you, then you definitely want to book a Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. We will go over these accounts. We'll kind of figure out what is going to be the best system that works for you. One thing I always do with my clients is we, talk about both sides of it, right? We talk about what has worked so far in terms of money management. And then we also talk about what has not worked and we dive into why. So that way we can really get your best system set up for you. And so with that, happy bank account organization, y'all. And I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.